What's good, YouTube family? It is your boy S.Craft Blends back again with another barber tutorial. I am so excited to drop this video. I'm excited to be back. And listen, this ain't the only video. I'm going to be dropping videos every day for the next 30 days. And then we'll be doing 3 videos a week. So I'm about to bombard y'all's channel. Stay tuned. This guy, crazy story, he walked in, we were all booked, so he was getting ready to walk out, and I said, hey, my man, if you let me record a YouTube video on your haircut transformation, I'll go ahead and squeeze you in. So we made a deal. He just wanted to cut it all off, so I had free reign to do whatever I wanted to do. So we started out with a number 3 all over. I just wanted to take a number 3 and just knock it off until I could figure out what I wanted to do with his head. Didn't know if I wanted to do a skin fade. Didn't know if I wanted to do a blowout. But with the limited time that I had between customers before my next client got there, I decided to go ahead and just go ahead and do a little taper on this guy. So I went with the 3 all over. Now I'm doing a number 2 on the beard, just knocking that down, trying to clean this guy up. My man was looking like Colin Kaepernick when he came in, or Sideshow Bob. I don't know, but I know one thing. My man's gonna leave talking about I got side chicks. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, cleaning this guy up really good. So now I'm taking that same number 2 that I used on the beard, and I'm just running it straight up the head. As soon as we get around that parietal ridge area, I'm just floating that number 2 right up. Usually I'll open it up and have like a 2.5 into the 3, and then I'll close it like you've seen earlier, and I'll just go ahead and use that number 2 to go into that 2.5. Real simple process. If you're new to cutting hair and you're scared to really take that leap, start out with things like this: a 3 on top and a 2 on the side. That way the only transition you have is that 2.5 in between. Just makes it real simple. So if you do the 3 on top, you open it up to a 2.5, and you just do right in that top ridge area, the parietal ridge area where I'm at right now. You just kind of float that thing straight up into that 3, and then drop to a 2 close underneath that 2.5, blend it right in. So that's what we're doing now, just preparing this canvas for a nice clean taper. Once again, I was very limited on time, so I was in a rush before my next client got there, but I wanted to record this video just for you guys because I know how much you love transformations. So it's good stuff. So right now, because I was still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, I was taking my time, just starting with that first vertical bar, getting that set. And as I'm doing his C-cup area, I noticed he has a unique C-cup. It kind of comes down to a point in the front where I'm at. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and keep that, kind of flow with that style. There again, I had free reign to do whatever I wanted to. So I made that C-cup just real sharp and come down into that vertical bar right there at a nice cool angle. You'll see it better here in just a moment when we move to the side. But just cleaning up that C-cup area. I'll go back over that C-cup once I trim down the hair a little bit more. But I set my first initial guideline. I know that my hand's in the way there again. I was in a rush to record this video. I'll do better in the future. Ha ha ha. But anyways, so what I did after I set my initial guideline, I just went in with an open blade, and I just went up with that open blade about 1 inch, and then I went down on the beard about 1 inch, down underneath that initial guideline. I figure I'm gonna go ahead and fade these both out while I'm there. So then I just slowly close that clipper blade, and I work my way down under that second guideline that I created with the open blade. So now I'm just kind of flicking with the open blade at the line, and there again, as you can see, I just kind of drop a little bit lower. Anytime you establish a guideline, whether it's a open blade and then you want to blend underneath, allow that initial guideline to be your stopping point when you're closing your clipper and you're trying to fade into that where you made that open blade guideline. make sure that that's your stopping point. Don't go over that stopping point. So now that I went ahead and made my initial guideline or second guideline with the open blade, and I closed it slowly, working my way down, just fading that line out. Now I'm going in with my next guard, and that is a zero guard. So I go in with a zero open, and I take it about a half an inch to an inch up again, and just kind of flick into that number 2. And then there again, now that I establish my next guideline, I start closing that zero guard a little more. Now, just to kind of touch things up, I went back to my Babyliss trimmers and just went ahead and started tapping around in that area just to kind of make sure that we got that bald line blending in pretty nice. And then, I just did a little line up over the ear there to make sure that it's clean. And once again, I cut the C cup earlier, but now that I cut down that hair in that area, it's gonna look kind of janky. So I have to go in and clean that up once again. As you can see now, I'm gonna leave him with a wide beard, and I'm trying to keep it as high as possible, but you can kind of see the natural line that I'm gonna end up hitting a little bit later. And in the back there, a lot of times people take that in really close on the jawline. If they have the hair, see, there's just baby fuzz there too, and I'm just lightly tapping that baby fuzz, and it looks like that beard is extending backwards nicely, so I'll be able to get a nice sharp point on that. So now I have my one guard on there, and what I'm doing with the number 1 guard is going up the side just along the edge with that number 1, so I can clean that up so that whenever I put a line in here, when I line it up, it gives me a nice sharper lineup. I try to do this on every cut. If it's not short enough to go ahead and use a number 1 on, I might use trimmer over comb just at an angle to clean up all that hair right there so that I can create a nice sharp line. There again, whenever I look away and do something different with my line or whatever, and then I look back at the fade, I can then see things that I couldn't see before. So you'll notice me go back and forth sometimes because I like to give my eyes a rest, look at something different, so whenever I look at it again, I'll be able to see what I couldn't see or what my eyes got used to, if that makes sense. So there again, I set my first initial guideline in the back. Now I'm doing an open blade, probably about an inch wide, and now I'm just gonna start closing it and work my way down until I'm completely closed and taking out that bald line like I'm doing right now. There again, once you set your initial guideline, that is your stopping point. Don't go over that with the same thing, right? So if you had an open blade and you start closing it, never go above that guideline. So now I went in with a number 1. A lot of times I'll skip on the back, I'll skip that step. So when, usually on the side, I'll do like a open blade, and then I'll do like a open 0, and then I'll do the 1. Usually in the back, for whatever reason, I like to skip. So I did the open blade, and then I did the open 1, and I took it up a little bit higher, and from that line up, and just began to clean a good inch and a half off, and then I slowly begin to close that number 1, working my way down to that guideline. Now I come back in with the 0 guard, and I open it and start going a little bit above that line and tapping at that line, kind of creating that next guideline, and then I'll start closing it and working my way down just to try to knock that line out altogether. In this area, a lot of times the hair is darker there, and because of the lump in the back of the head, the occipital bone, it creates a shadow. I am not scared to cut that hair shorter because that hair is going to look darker regardless of how long it is. So if you make it shorter, it doesn't look as dark, and it looks more blended than keeping it like a regular one. So don't be afraid to tap at those hairs in that area just to try to take out some of that dark, because there again, it's not about the length of the hair always, it's about looking at it, and it's about light and darkness. It's about just having a nice gradient, a flow of color going down. And sometimes you have to take the guard off and tap in that area to make it lighter. Sometimes it's just a shorter guard than normal, but you just want to try to keep that gradient flowing nice. So there again, I took my guard off and I just started working my way back down again with that open blade, and then working my way down, closing that blade each step. And now see those little lines? I use a lot of corners when I'm using my clipper, so I'm just tapping that line with the corner of my blade, not wanting to create more lines. And I'm very light-handed, so I'm just kind of tapping in there. Now I'm going back in because of those dark spots, and I'm taking that 0 guard. And if you notice, I'm going a little bit higher than normally I would because that hair is darker, and I've already went over it with the 1, and the 1 wasn't giving me the look I was going for. So I went in with a 0 open, and then started closing it. Still wasn't all the way there, so I took the guard off and just went with the open blade and started tapping at it. So now we're going to go ahead and jump right into the front edge. A lot of times I'll do one side of the taper, then I'll do the other side of the taper, and then I'll come back and do the lineup. But I like to keep it fresh and just whatever I'm feeling at the moment. So I jumped right from that back taper to the front lineup, and then I can kind of get a better picture of where I want that next vertical bar to be. There again, he has that unique C-cup area, so I wanted to kind of start working on that and kind of get it to match up. Whenever you see me use the clipper over comb like that to pull those hairs down, it's because the hair in that area is actually laying or pointing towards the back of his head, and I want to pull those hairs out or pull them down so that I can get a better lineup on that, make it look cleaner, because if he starts sweating or something and those hairs end up brushing down, it'll look kind of choppy. So there again, I created my first guideline on this side using just the blade open, went up about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and now I'm doing the same on the beard, going down about 1.5 inches on the beard with it open. And while I'm closing my blade a little bit, I'll drop down from that guideline and start fading out the line. But while I'm on the beard, while it's closed, I start fading it up. And now I got my 0. Actually, I think I might have the number 1 on there right now. So just like I did the back, I skipped the 0 guard and went straight into the number 1 open, took it up a little ways right into that number 2. And then I'm closing the number 1 and just working my way down. Then I've got the 0 guard on there now, and now I'll just come down a little bit lower and I'll start working on knocking that line out. If I see little dark spots, then I just use the corner of my blade to tap into those dark spots. And sometimes, because of those dark spots, the number 1, once you ran the number 1 over it, it still looks dark in areas. Use the corner of that guard that's a little bit shorter and tap at those. Then I took that off and moved right back to my open blade to blend that half line into the 0 closed. Step back and look at it. If it looks patchy in any area, you want to, like I said, a nice clean gradient. You want the colors to flow. If it doesn't matter if all the hairs are long and from short to long, and that systematically they're going from short to long, and you did every step. It doesn't matter if you look at the head and there's spots and there's dark spots and light spots. You got to try to cause all that to flow together as a gradient, if that makes sense. There again, going right back into the beard, trying to keep it thick. That C cup right there is aggravating me because I want to have that nice curve that I was looking for. Whenever I trim those hairs, I kind of made that area a little bit lighter, so we just got to keep working on it. And obviously we'll come in also once I feel like I have a good foundation and it's a clean cut without the color enhancement, then I'll go ahead and add a little enhancement on there so that you can see how sharp everything is. I'm not going to show that on today's video, but Earlier, whenever I was using that 0 and that 1, I went ahead and went up on this side as well to clean up that area so I can get a nice sharp line. And watch that. Bam, bam. What you talking about, boy? Good Lord. Look at those things. Man, those Babyliss are hitters. Just easy. Knocking it down. Nice clean line. And there again, it's real clean and sharp because I went in earlier with that number 1 and just kind of went along the edge, flicking at that hair on the edge there so I can keep it clean. Once again, just hitting the baby fuzz, the peach fuzz in the back. So I went ahead and just lined his beard up for the sake of time. Gave him a little shot of color enhancement. We used 245, no drip. This is onyx, color onyx. I'm just coming in with a straight razor, making sure I'm pulling the skin tightly and just keeping those lineups sharp and crispy. As you can see earlier, I just hit a little bit of the razor in the where I first put in the fade area, where I first put that initial guideline to touch it up. But boom, there is the finished product. It's the transformation. If you like it, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, tell me what's up, and also subscribe if you have not. Man, I hope you enjoyed this time together. I will see you tomorrow. Be ready.